Okay, so first things first, no talking from you. No speaking, no interjecting, no making little noises, no sounds whatsoever. Try to keep your face as neutral as possible. I don't want any reaction out of you, because if I get any reaction out of you while I'm speaking, I might just chicken out and not finish what I have to say, and I want to finish what I have to say. So, no speaking from you. Is that clear? Do you understand? Okay, no, that was a test and you failed. There was no speaking required. No speaking. Do you understand? Thank you. Thank you. So, the first thing I wanted to say after no speaking is, you were right. Okay, you're confused. It has been a while. You were right when you said we should break up. I know it's been a while. It's been a long while. It took me a long while to realize that you were right. It took me a long while to get past being hurt. I understood at the time that what you were saying, on the surface, was rational, was reasonable. I mean, really, whoever just stays with their high school sweetheart for the rest of their lives, it doesn't happen, or almost never happens. And when it does happen, you're right. People find themselves decades later wondering what they missed out on in life. It might be inevitable for people to feel dissatisfied with their lives at some point or another. And if you've always been with the same person, it would be easy to look at them and think that they're why you feel like you've missed out on something. I didn't want you to ever feel like you'd missed out on something because you'd been with me that whole time. But that didn't mean that it hurt any less. You were also right that being out on your own, being single, and not just romantically, but being a single person who has to rely on only themselves, is an important life lesson. You didn't say as much at the time, but I've certainly had years to think about it. And I realize it's learning to exercise muscles that we wouldn't have done if we were together throughout college and afterwards. If we'd stayed together, especially the way I had imagined we would, I might always be afraid of being alone because I would never have learned that I could be. Neither of us would have ever known who we could be without the other. And there is something to be said for dating other people, experiencing that. The flutters of a first date, the discouragement of dates that didn't work out. So many people that seemed great at first and then just weren't, were all lessons. Lessons in what we wanted and what we didn't want. I mean, if I'd stayed with you, I never would have learned that I don't really like comic conventions. I know, right? You would think that it would be right up my alley, but it wasn't. I don't know, it's just loud, busy. And the few that I've been to had gaming rooms that were super funky. And also that I do like Civil War reenactment. Oh, no, don't look at me like that. It's not like that. I'm still not some military historian. I don't enjoy the history of war so much, but they get together and they cook like it's the 1860s. And they make their own clothes, a lot of them, and I don't know. It's just all of that. It's camping and cosplay all wrapped into one. Anyway, that's off the subject. There are things we learned about ourselves that we wouldn't have learned if we'd been together, doing the same things that we each liked to do. We wouldn't have been exposed to as many other people. We wouldn't have been exposed to as many other experiences. We would have missed some of the rites of passage of being young. Like having your heart broken for the first time. No, I'm not here to blame you or to make you feel guilty. I'm pretty sure I was very good at that at the time. And I was still good at it when you came back from college and asked if we could pick up where we left off. I'm sorry for the things I said to you at the time. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't practiced some of those lines many, many times over the course of many showers where I imagined what I would say if I were ever face to face with you again. I don't mean to imply that I'd spent all 4 years of college plotting my verbal revenge, but the first year was pretty rough. I didn't date anyone. Instead, I spent a lot of time reading romance novels and playing dating sims, which is really cringe, but also it got me through it. Because I wasn't ready to date, and I didn't need the distraction in my first year of school, but I had begun to see the logic in what you'd said. But the fatal flaw with that logic, with all of the points that you made, is that emotions don't usually respond to logic unless the emotions aren't engaged. If you had been as head over heels in love with me as I was with you, I don't think any amount of logic could have gotten you to break up with me. No? I said no looks. I'm not blaming you. But that future you were talking about, one where you didn't want us to one day wake up and wonder what we'd missed, that wasn't a future. That was your present at the time. That was what you were already beginning to feel. I'm certain of that. And that's okay. You were a teenage boy. It's natural to want to see more of the world than you've seen, to meet more people than you've met, and to be with more girls than you've been with. I am sorry that I accused you of cheating or being interested in someone else at the time. You would think that it wouldn't be easier to imagine that someone else had tempted you away from me. But what was easier was imagining that you were the bad guy and I was better off without you. Because if you weren't a jerk, then there was no silver lining that I could see. It was just all loss and no gain under those circumstances. I needed that silver lining. By the time we ran into each other again and you asked me for a second chance, I was able to see that it had been for the best that we'd broken up. But I still had convinced myself that you were such a jerk. Because you didn't love me as much as I loved you. And that was wrong. It was childish, It was silly. We loved each other differently. There's no doubt about that. But frankly, I don't think anybody could be as passionate about anything as a teenage girl can be about her crush. So, perhaps you didn't love me the way I loved you, and my love was a little simplistic, juvenile, more informed by fairy tales than real life. So, as I said, you were right that we should have some time apart. And I was right that you didn't really love me the way I loved you. But that was also for the best. At least one of us should have had our feet on the ground. So, with all of that said, that brings me to why I'm standing in front of you today, making you not say a word for all of this time. It was very easy for me to tell you no and give you an earful when you asked me for a second chance. For one, as I said, I'd had so many of those lines rehearsed for a while, but also I wasn't actually back in town yet. I was just coming back and visiting. I know it looked like it because I was in town for a good few months at that point, but that was just because I'd purchased one home and sold my last, and the new home wasn't finished being built yet. I was doing a lot of commuting those months. But I'm not now. Now I've moved back to town. And now I've had more time to think about it. And thinking about it, I thought of how I was still attracted to you. And I won't pretend that I haven't seen your social media. I still think that we have a lot in common. And we still have the same sense of humor. We still like the same books and movies and music. And God knows we still have a lot of the same friends. What I'm saying is, I'm here to ask, if you would give me a second chance to give you a second chance. You can talk now.